guys, Serena here from Spin and Dye, Texas. Welcome to week 5 of our quarantine fiber group. I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys a new technique today. So today we're going to be working on 7-string braids, and I'll pull those out in just a minute, but there's a couple things that I wanted to share with you before we jump into what I wanted to show you today. So first and foremost, last week I was working on, and in the first week, I believe, I was working on doing the rainbow spin, and I kind of told you guys how it was going to work, and this is what it's going to look like. And I know it's always kind of hard to visualize. Well, I finally finished it this weekend, so I thought I would show you. So this is what I ended up with. It's about 1,200 yards 2-ply, and you can see how that dark aubergine tones down the rainbow just enough so it's not fluorescent. And you still get the rainbow striping effect in there, but not quite so neon. So I finally finished it. I was so excited. I haven't even posted it on Instagram yet. I wanted to share with the Monday group and with you guys first, because you guys were with me while I was trying to power through all of it. And so as I was winding it off the bobbins, I had 3 bobbins full, and I was trying to get 3 matching skeins for my Etsy shop, and then I would have a little bit left on the bobbin, and I wound those off for myself because I want to do a project with it. And I ended up with this adorable little mini skein of rainbow, which there's probably, I can't remember how many yards are on here, something like 22. It'll work really nice for an edge of something, but it was just so cute. It's just so tiny. So that's the rainbow yarn. It's finished. It's put to rest. It's going to go up on the Etsy shop probably this weekend. And I'll post the pictures on Instagram so you can get a better look at it too. But I wanted to share with you guys first because I just was so excited. So that was the first thing. Second thing is, last week I was talking about how one of the videos that I want to do for my YouTube channel is doing dyeing videos, and specifically how to dye silk and silk hankies. And I had talked about some silk cocoons that I had dyed last year, and I said I would try and find them and bring them down to show you guys, which I found them. And so in case you don't know, when a silkworm creates the cocoon, it looks like this. Whoop! Dropped it. They're very light. This is all silk. It's all one long piece that they wrap around and around to create their cocoons. And I'm sorry, that's pretty white, and I think it's kind of washing out on the camera, but it's a little cocoon. Now, they normally have a top on them, but these were cut open to allow the silkworms out, and so that they could save the cocoons. So that's what they look like originally. So I took and dyed in pink and blue food coloring, and I ended up with these really cute, and this one still has a top kind of attached to it, so it looks, let me get that top up there. So I came out with these really cute little pink and blue cocoons that look like eggs. So what I want to do eventually is attach a post in there so that I can wear them as earrings around Halloween, because they look kind of spooky and otherworldly, and they were very fun to do. So that's what I have in here. And then the other thing that I had talked about was the silk that I wanted to do the dyeing video for was not actually silk cocoons, it was silk hankies. And I know that these are something that not everyone has had the opportunity to see or to work with. So I thought I would just show off kind of what those look like as well. So this is that cocoon then being wet and stretched over a square frame so that it's square. This is all still one piece of silk though. And to spin with it, whoops, that was actually 2 hankies. But to spin with it, you actually poke a hole in the center and then just stretch it out until you have this incredibly long loop. And then you rip at one point and you spin from there. So This is what I'm going to be dyeing for the videos, and I have these down here today because I wanted to show you guys and also because I'm going to get that video started. So hopefully it'll be up by early next week. If that's something that you're interested in learning how to do, keep an eye on the channel. All right, so I'm going to set those aside. Now on to what you're here for, hopefully, is learning the 7-string braid. So if you're not sure what a 7-string braid is, these are 2 samples that I've done. And you can kind of see you end up with a speckled look. It reminds me of that hard candy, those little hard candies that you get in the straw. That's what it looks like in person. So I have 2 here. One is not too long, maybe about 18 inches, and then another one that's very long. And these are going to be used, see, it just keeps going and going. These are going to be used to hang some weavings that I've done. So I have them set aside for specific projects. To make them, what you need normally is something like this. It's called a kumi loom. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this one is a piece of styrofoam about 1/2 inch thick, and it's got slits in the side there where your thread, floss, yarn is going to go. Now, most people don't have a kumi loom, or you don't plan on doing this long enough to need a kumi loom, and that's fine. You can make one at home. To do that, you need a piece of cardboard or any material that's firm. I wouldn't go straight printer paper per se, but a very sturdy cardstock would probably work, and then anything stronger than that. And so my cardboard was an Amazon box at one time. And what I've done is I've cut it into an octagon, so 8 sides, and punched a hole. You can kind of see there the hole. Punched a hole in the middle of that cardboard. Now, my loom is about 4-ish inches wide. As far as I know, it doesn't really matter how wide you make them. The idea here is to just keep to give organization to the threads that you're using. So I have an octagon cut out of cardboard, and then, and I'm gonna, okay, there, you can see it there. So then on each side, I've cut a slit into the cardboard. Oh, you get to see my nice chip nail there. Isn't that pretty? I've cut a slit into the cardboard that is going to be used to hold my string. So 8 sides means 8 slits, 1 on each side. The next thing you're going to need is something to braid. Now, I will be using embroidery thread or embroidery floss, sorry. And I've picked out 7 colors because this is a 7-string braid that we're doing. And you can use that, or you can use yarn. You can use unconventional materials if you want. I have never done one with unconventional materials, so I can't say anything about like the strength that it will have, but I've seen them done with plastic bags and that kind of thing. So whatever you have will work. The only thing that I don't recommend is something that's very thick, like a super bulky yarn, just because you're going to have trouble getting it into the slits in the cardboard, and you may end up stretching out those slits to a point that they're not really holding on to anything anymore. So, but we've got this, and then you will also need a pair of scissors to cut your floss, and that's it. That's all we need. So it is a 7-string braid, so you need 7 strings. Now I'm going to be using 7 different colors because I think the contrast is really nice against the cardboard so you guys can see it, and because I like that speckled look that you get, and it looks better to me if all the colors are different. But you could do 7 of the same color. You could do 3 of one color, 4 of another color, however you want to work it out is fine. Although I do recommend for your first one that you use a minimum of 3 different colors. The only reason being is that it's easier to see the pattern that way, and you won't lose your place as quickly. But then after that, whatever you want to do is fine. Okay? So first things first, I need to find all my ends on my floss. And so give me just a second to do that. Now, this is just regular, the DMC, I believe it's 6-string, I could be wrong, floss. I'm going to be using all the strings left intact together. I know if you're cross stitching and things like that, it'll tell you to pull out 1 or 2. This we're using all 6. So it does tend to add up. I do like to make mine a little bit on the long side, and the reason being that I do tend to use them for wall hangings and to hold things up. However, the braids themselves are very versatile, so depending on what you want to use it for will depend on how much length you need. This one I'm going to cut probably about 2 feet long. And the completed size is pretty true to the size that you start, the length that you start with. So if you start with 2 feet, you're going to end up with close to 2 feet of braid when you're done. So I've got one more here to do. There we go. So how I do it, and I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see in just a second, is I lined up all my ends together on one side. Well, there's only one side right now because they haven't been cut, but line up all my ends together like so. Okay. And then I'm just going to do an overhanded knot. And when I do my knots, I do try and give myself a nice little tail, because I'm going to need to be able to attach this to something at some point, and also because it helps when you start to have something to grab onto. So I've got just a nice knot in there, and you can see I did about 4.5 inch, 4-inch tail. Then there's my knot, and then I'm just going to let all of those cards unwind. And yeah, I think I'm going to do about this long, 2 feet, 2-ish feet, and cut. Now keep in mind when you are deciding how long you want yours to be, that you are also going to want a tail at the end so that you have a place to tie off and then attach to something else, whatever you're going to attach it to. So keep that in mind. If you need 4 feet of braid, cut a minimum 4.5 feet of string. So this is what I have now. The colors I'm using are my favorite color family. I'm using purples, blues, and pinks with just one black string to kind of make everything pop a little bit. I love using a little black in things. I just like how the other colors work with it. And what I've done is I've done a dark purple, a pastel purple, a dark pink, a pastel pink, and a dark blue and a pastel blue. So that way it'll just come up with some really nice pops of color in the speckle effect. So I've taken my group of strings and I've run them through the hole in the center of my loom. Now, there is not a right side and wrong side to the loom that you've created if you've done one with cardboard. So it doesn't really matter what works for you. Where I punched the hole in the cardboard, it bends inward, and so I always just use this as my top. Also because it's going to be easier for you guys to see than if I use the side that has the color on it. So, but there is no front or back to your loom. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to take all of these strings or threads and put them in the slots. Now remember, we had 8 slots on our octagon, and we only have 7 strings. So you need to make sure that you end up with 1 slot with nothing in it. It does not matter how necessarily you organize your string on the loom. However, I am going to do it where hang on. Let me try that again. I am going to do it so that I start with all my lighter colors on one side and then put my darker colors on the other. And it's just because I just think it looks pretty that way. But since we're going for that speckled effect, it doesn't really matter how you have your string in your loom. And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble here. I normally have very long nails, but they've been breaking on me lately. And so I'm used to having much longer nails than I actually have on this hand right now. Okay, so this is what you should end up with. It kind of looks like a wonky starfish. Here is the slot that I have empty, and then every other slot on my loom is filled. To start, what I do, and you can see my tail is hanging underneath, and I have the knot right up at the hole. You want to start with the knot as close to the hole as you can, because it's going to mean that you're going to start your braid right up against that knot. If you have the knot down here, then you're going to have this loose section of not really braided thread, and then you'll have your braid start. And so make sure to have that knot as close to the top as you can get. And that's another reason to have the tail, because what we're going to do is we're going to grab the tail in two of our fingers to hold on to. That just gives us a little bit of weight tension on our thread. And then I'm going to put the loom against the side of my finger and hold it with my thumb. Okay, so I've got all 7 strands of my tail in between my fingers there, pushed up against the loom, and then stabilizing with my thumb. I was going to say something and now I just completely forgot. Oh well. So the next thing that we need to think about is where our empty space is. So my empty space is over here. I'm going to turn my loom a little bit. I want my empty space to be to the right of my thumb. And then we're going to start braiding. The braid pattern here is very simple but very specific. You need to make sure that you braid in the same pattern all the way through, and that you're braiding in the same direction all the way through. So I'm going to be moving clockwise around my loom. If it's more comfortable for you to move counterclockwise, I know a lot of people who are left-handed tend to do things in the opposite direction of people who are right-handed. So if you're left-handed, it might be more comfortable for you to be going counterclockwise. That's fine, as long as you keep going counterclockwise. Don't then pick it up again and start going counterclockwise instead of clockwise, or vice versa, because what will happen is you start unbraiding what you've done. So I'm going to be going clockwise. The pattern is very simple. We have 1, 2, well, let me hold that up a little bit better. We have 1 string, 2 string, 3 string. That 3rd string, I am going to pop it out of the slot, jump over those the 2 other strings that I just counted off, and put that blue one in that empty slot that I have. Okay, and then we're going to do it again. So now my empty slot is here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3rd one, pop that out of the slot, jump over those 2 strings, put it into the empty slot. One more time. 1, 2, 3. I'm at this dark pink right here. I'm going to grab that dark pink. If I can just grab that one, pop it out of the slot, jump over, put it into the empty slot. That's the pattern. It is that simple. However, you get these really cool, really functional braids out of it, and it moves relatively quickly. This length will probably take me about an hour and an hour and a half to do, which seems like a long time, but because the pattern is so simple, and because especially if you're using a homemade loom, the number of slots that you have means that you only have 1 empty slot there's not a lot of paying attention that you have to do. So it's very mindless. It's something that can be done while you're watching TV, while you're a passenger in the car, or, things like that. So it's just jump over 2, pop it in the empty slot. Jump over 2, pop it in the empty slot. And you just keep going. So, and remember to count 3 from your empty slot, not just the next 3 in your pattern. So what I'm saying is, so here's my empty slot. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and jump this one over and pop it in. Now from here, you don't want to go, from here, you don't want to go 1, 2, 3 and jump over. You want to go from the empty space, 1, 2, 3, and jump that pink one on over. Okay? So I'm going to keep going with this. If you are following along, please keep going. If you are working on another project, I'd love to hear what you're working on today. Excuse me, hang on. It's very hot here today. It's the first day, I think, that we've had warm from the morning type temperatures. It usually gets hot this time of year in Texas, but there's a difference between spring hot and summer hot, and we're reaching that summer hot. And summer hot means that it's the cool temperature in the morning is going to be somewhere around, if we're lucky, 75, and by the dead of summer, it's going to be 80 at 7 o'clock in the morning. So this is the first day that we've had that's been on the warm side of pleasant in the morning, and now we're just getting to hot. I think it's supposed to be 87 degrees today, something like that. I'm looking forward to the summer this year. I like the hot weather, even though sometimes you are so hot that you just can't imagine what cold weather is like anymore. I prefer that over being cold. I learned my lesson when I lived in Maryland for 3 years and realized I hate being cold. Cool, temperate, sure. Cold? No. No, 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 no. So as I'm going through with these braids, like I said at the beginning, I like to use them to hang weaving projects with. I just think it adds a little extra flair. I attach the braid to a dowel rod, and oh, that's not one. I was going to show you the one that I have on the wall, but it doesn't have a braid on it. But I attach the braid to a dowel rod, put a drop of hot glue on there just to keep it stable, and hang my weavings from that. And I like the way it looks because I think it adds just a little bit of extra panache. And I do love panache, I'll be honest. But it's not the only thing that you can do with the braids. So you can use them to do straps on a shirt. You can use them for a purse strap. I will say I am a believer in the big purse. I really am. I love my big purses. Everybody that knows me kind of makes fun of me because my purse weighs like 15 pounds. I just shove everything in there. I don't know. I wouldn't use this braid to hold my purse because the braid wouldn't stand a chance. My purse would be like, you got to be kidding me. You couldn't hold half of me up with this thing. But if you like small purses or have a small purse for a special occasion, that kind of thing, then these would work great for that. They do come out pretty strong. I have seen people who say, oh, you can use it as a leash for an animal. That is also something that I'm going to advise caution on, simply because leashes that you buy at the store, the way they attach the hardware and the hardware that they use is very specific to the weight of the animal. It's very specific, not just to the weight, but the potential power of the animal. So an animal could, like a dog, if you're walking your dog sees a squirrel, they go, oh my God, squirrel. And they start running. And there's that force, that pull is all accounted for when they make leashes that they sell at the store. With something like this, it's harder to know unless you have that specialized equipment, which if you do, awesome, and please share. But if you don't have the specialized equipment to check the force rating of your braid, it's probably better to err on the side of caution with that and use it as an embellishment to an existing leash versus actually using it as a leash. And I know I said that on Monday's video as well. So if you were there and you're like, yeah, we already heard this, I know, but animals are very important to me. I love my dogs so much. And so I tend to be the person that falls down the trap of, oh, I can make something for my dog. Oh my gosh, I want to do it. I want to do it. And I would hate for someone to try that without realizing that it's not the smartest plan. Oh, here, let me show you something. So sometimes your threads will get tangled up. The best way to pull that tangle out is to grab onto one string at a time and just give it a gentle tug and slide down it like this. And you're going to pull that knot out without having to spend a lot of time on it. I have seen where people will add small weights to their strings to keep them held down and to avoid getting tangled. Same with the centerpiece. They'll add a little weight to it instead of using their fingers for that weight. You absolutely could do that. The only reason I don't is because I think it makes the whole project a little bit more tedious. There's more pieces that you have to have. You don't necessarily, this you can throw in your pocket and go. You can throw it in, well, if you have my purse, you can throw it in your purse and just head off. But if you have to have all those weights, it just adds more. And if you're like me and lugging around a 15-pound purse, you probably don't want to then add more weights for a braid in there. But if you find that it's a little bit frustrating for you to have to pull through the knot every couple passes, then yeah, you can add weights to try and avoid that. And if you do make one of these braids and attach to a shirt as a strap, I would love to see it because that is something that I would like to do. I think for me, I would probably do 2 braids kind of wrapped around each other and do it as a little strap on a tank top. I think that would be really, really cute. So if you decide to do that, please share because I would love to see the result. It's something that I have on my list of to-dos, which the longer this quarantine goes on, shockingly, the longer my list of to-dos gets because I don't I don't have anywhere to go. So I'm spending a lot of time on the internet watching how-to videos and, oh, look what I made videos and stuff like that. And it just has me itching to try new things and without the materials to do it. So I just have a list of stuff that I want to accomplish or try. And eventually I'll get to all of it. I have time. So right now, in addition to these braids, I am working on a couple different things. So I finished that rainbow yarn, which I'm really glad to have off of my wheel because it's a yarn that I love, love, love to spin, but for some reason I was just having trouble getting into it this time. So I've got that taken care of. And then I am now working on an Ashford traditional loom. An Ashford traditional wheel, and I'm spinning a 2-ply yarn of a blend that I got in a fiber box about 2 years ago that's been sitting on my shelf upstairs, and I decided that's going to be my other goal for this quarantine is to get through some of that, some of the stash that I have that's just been around for a while. And so that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm using the Ashford because the class that I teach that I've discussed before on here, they all have Ashford traditional wheels it's the Ashford traditional wheel. And so while they're learning to spin on it, I like to be using a traditional wheel as well so that I can just kind of have it in my mindset when I'm talking to them, because I normally spin on my Louette, which I love my Louette. But maintenance, upkeep, and just kind of the isms of the wheel, if you will, are so different that it helps me to be spinning on the same wheel that they are while they're doing it. So I'm spinning on the Ashford, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite wheel. They're so tedious, these Ashford wheels are, or at least the traditional, I should say. I haven't spun on, I believe it's the Kiwi is their upright one. And I have not spun on a Kiwi. So maybe that one has a different feel to it. But the traditionals, I don't like the way the pedal is. I feel like I'm working harder to pedal. And I have a single pedal traditional, and my Louette is single pedal as well. So I'm used to working with a single pedal, but I feel like it doesn't sit at a nice angle. It hurts my ankle a little bit. Not a lot, not to the point that it's like I'm in pain, but just when I spin, I can spin on my Louette for hours and not feel a difference. When I spin on the Ashford for an hour or 2 hours, I stand up and go, oh, I've been using my ankle. I've been using that. And it's not my favorite thing. Plus the bobbins. Okay, so it is possible that I just have a jumbo flyer on my Louette. I don't know because I did not purchase my Louette. I've told the story before. I won't bore you with it again, but it was gifted to me. So I got whatever they had. And my bobbins are big. I can fit 8 ounces on a bobbin of a single. When you get to a double, it's a little bit harder, but to a 2-ply. But for a single, I can spin 8 ounces onto a single bobbin. And that's what I'm used to. And I do tend to spin at least 4 ounces at a time. Well, this on the Ashford, I can only fit about 2.5 ounces as a single on a bobbin. And thankfully, the fiber that I found from that fiber box, which is a really nice fiber, by the way, it's a merino and silk blend. It's very nice. But thankfully, it only came in 3 ounces when I got it. And the other one that I'm using is a faux Angora. And that one was 3 ounces as well. So I can spin 2.5 ounces of each single onto a bobbin and then apply those together. I'll end up with a 5-ounce skein of yarn. But it's just, I'm so not used to it. I mean, this bobbin is just like packed full of fiber and I've barely spun anything. So I'm getting back into the rhythm of the traditional wheel. I haven't really worked on that wheel much in the last 6 months. And every time I go back to it, it just reminds me why I don't. And Ashford, I mean, the wheels are solid, I have to say. It's not that they're a bad wheel or anything like that. It's just not my wheel. So that is what I'm working on. I'm also still working on my washcloths. And I've got almost a full cone of cotton yarn used up, which I'm really excited about for 2 reasons. 1, because that means I have a lot of washcloths to donate. And then 2, because I just really need to get rid of that cotton yarn. It's just too much. I just have way too much of it, and I'm never going to use it because I don't like working with it. So I'm excited to be making progress there as well. So just so you guys know, I'm just continuing with the pattern. So jump over 2, put it into the empty slot, jump over 2, put it into the empty slot, and so on. And for the time that we've been talking, and I've been just working on this rather than doing the demonstration, I've gotten about, we'll say 2 inches done already. So it does go by very quickly. You do not have to feel like, oh, I'm investing more time, more energy, more everything into this. This is something that you can do idly while you're just hanging out, while you're in the car as a passenger, not a driver, please. It's bad enough people text and drive. Let's not craft and drive, please. But it does. It moves very quickly. And you do have to look down at it more often than, say, when you're spinning, or sometimes even if you're crocheting or knitting. Some people don't really have to look at the project that they're working on. And this one, it's not that you're looking to, it's not like crochet where you have to count or anything like that. It's just you oftentimes are looking down to make sure that you're finding that slot, because especially if it's an octagon loom that you've cut out yourself, it might just, it's not always going to be in the same place, even when you just move from one side to the other. Now, one thing to note about these store-bought Kumi looms is that you'll notice this one has a lot of slots on each side. And that's because you can actually expand and do a 16-string braid or an 8-string braid, anything like that. Whereas if you create this loom at home and you've cut 8 slots into it, it's really just going to work for 7 strings or less. Now, does that mean you have to go out and buy this? Absolutely not. You can just cut another one that has more slots in it or add more slots to this one. Now, these braids can also be used for beading. If you wanted to add beads to the strings and then you do the braid and you have this nice little round beaded bracelet, whatever you're making. I would not recommend doing that with a cardboard loom, because the beads are going to wear down your cardboard a lot faster, and so you're going to lose the grip. I've made 5 or 6 braids on this loom, and I have not lost that grip in the slots. But if I was using beads or anything super wide, eventually it would break down. I'd have to make another one. With these, because using them for beading and that kind of thing was the original use for them, from what I understand, they also tend to be like, this one's a firm foam, and so your beads are going to sit in there a lot nicer, and hopefully it's going to bounce back a lot easier than, say, cardboard would. So there is absolute merit to having one. I am going to use this one to do some beading. I went through a jewelry phase. I think we all have. And so I have tons of beads left over from that and no projects for them. So I'm going to do some beaded bracelets, and I'm definitely going to use this for that, because I think it's going to be, it's going to work out a lot nicer than if I was trying to do it in the cardboard, because cardboard just doesn't have the same give and it doesn't have the same bounce back. So I'm just going to keep going here. I have been, time is starting to blur together, let me tell you, with this quarantine. I keep forgetting what day it is. The other day, I think it was yesterday, I said something to my husband, and he said, well, don't you love me? He was kidding. And he said, don't you love me? I said, I love you every day and twice on Tuesday. And it's Tuesday, so I love you twice today. And he just looked at me deadpan and just went, Serena, it's Wednesday. Like, you get it was just so funny. But I don't have any sense of time being in my house the way I have been. I don't go out that often, you know. I'm a homebody, I really am. But you know, the weekends we go out, and during the week, there's a group that I've been attending on Tuesdays that obviously isn't happening right now, and things like that. And so my schedule it's gotten to the point now where every day is whatever day I want it to be for the most part, which is also one of the reasons why I love meeting with you guys, because it gives me something to look forward to every Monday and Thursday. And it helps me keep my week straight, because I know, oh, today I have a live stream at 7, or today I have a live stream at 1, so it must be Thursday. So I've been very busy this week, though, because I did have live stream on Monday, which, if you are not joining the Monday evening group, you certainly do not have to, because if I'm doing a demonstration, whatever project I'm working on that week, I will work on in both meetings, whether it's a demo project or just spinning or weaving or whatever. So you certainly don't have to, but it is a fun group, and we do they do get to see everything first, just because they're there on Monday. So anyway, on Monday I had the live stream, and then on Tuesday I had the first meeting with my students, which went over very well. I think I was happy with, they all seem excited to spin. And I love sharing fiber arts with pretty much anyone who will listen, because I think it's just something that is so big and can be both very modern and is a part of history. Like these braids, I'm doing silly pop color. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to use this one for, but it looks so neat and modern, and well, this one's kind of retro 60s a little bit look. And at the same time, like the reason why this exists, the reason why spinning exists, the reason why weaving exists is because we needed it. And there was a time where that was how you got your clothes. That was how you got your ropes and fibers and twine and just everything. And so I love sharing fiber arts with anyone, because it's this mixture of old and new. And so that's what I did on Tuesday, was met with my students and talked to them about learning spinning and that kind of thing. And then on Wednesday, yesterday, my dog had his dental appointment, which, for it being his first dental appointment since he's lived with us, because he's a rescue, it went fine. He did well on the anesthesia and everything. But they called me in the afternoon and said, yeah, you can go ahead and come pick him up. He's a little drooly from all the pain meds they gave him, I guess. He was just zonked out. So that was interesting. And then I had to go pick up medicine for our foster dog. And that was a whole other kind of interesting. So I have learned, as part of this quarantine, this is one of the lessons I've learned, and that is that people don't listen. They don't listen. So when you need to get a prescription refilled for a dog at this particular animal shelter, you send them an email that says, hey, I need to have Rumpus's medication refilled for X, Y, and Z prescriptions. And they email you back and say, okay, we'll send you a text when it's ready. And you get a text message, and the text message says, do not exit your prescription's ready. Come to the facility and pick it up. Do not exit your car. Check in online. And it has a link. I watched 6 people try and walk up and go into the building. 6. One of them with a dog, where it says very specifically when you sign in online, it says, do not bring your dogs into our facility. We will come pick them up from your car because of coronavirus. It was hilarious. I was only there 15, 20 minutes waiting for them to set Rumpus's prescriptions out. And in that time, I saw 6 people, none of them wearing masks or anything. And every single one of them walked up, and then they would look at the COVID signs and they go, like they couldn't figure out what it meant when it says, don't come inside. Everybody knows this at this point. You shouldn't even need the text message, the email, the online waitlist instructions. You shouldn't need any of that. You should just know it's going to be different as a result of what's been happening in the world for the last 6 weeks. Nope. All of these people just kept walking up, and I felt so bad for the poor volunteers that work there, because, and they are volunteers. They're not paid staff, and they're under staffed right now because of coronavirus, and they're just running back and forth telling people, no, stay there with your dog. Stay there with your dog. And it was pretty hysterical to watch. It really was, because people just don't listen. It's not hard to listen and follow basic rules. I mean, no one was telling them they had to be able to stand on their head and do a jig and, all of these crazy things. It was just wait in your car. Don't come up. We don't want your germs. It was very funny. So that was my exciting day yesterday. Although I will say that for the first time since coronavirus started, when they announced in our area that we were going to be doing stay at home and or that they were going to have the stay at home order and everything, my husband and I had to go to his office to pick up some stuff for his own working from home. And I was expecting to see like tumbleweeds going down the streets because they were going to be so empty, and they weren't. There were a lot of people out and about. Now, they weren't at the mall. They weren't not out and about, not following the rules, but people have places to go, essential places, doctor's offices, grocery stores, their own jobs if they're essential employees. And so I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting to see these empty, deserted streets, and they weren't. Now, yesterday, so that was, 6 weeks ago now. So yesterday, I was able to get from downtown Austin to my home, which normally takes me about an hour, at 5 o'clock in 25 minutes. And I told my husband, I said, oh yeah, people must be staying home now because I saw cars on the street, but none of them got in my way. Like no one had to hit their brakes on the freeway at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. It was, I finally saw that kind of empty streets thing like they've talked about in New York and those types of places. But it was, people are definitely staying at home. I can see it in the fact that at 5 o'clock in Austin, there was no traffic. And if you're not from here, there's traffic here at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we're not quite LA traffic, but we're definitely competing for it. We want to see if we can achieve 5 o'clock, LA traffic here in Austin. That's for sure. So, yeah, that was my big shock and awe. I can't believe that worked out the way it did. And then today I'm here with you guys. So that's been a very, considering the fact that I left the house once, and that was yesterday, it's been a very exciting week for me from home. So I think the rest of the weekend I am going to work on washcloths. I'm going to finish that spin on the Ashford wheel. I'll probably have that on Monday's meeting to show. I like to share what I've completed with you guys. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy most in the guild that I belong to, is when everybody does their show and tell and we get to see what they're working on and you get to share your own success. And it's fun because you're talking to other people who understand what you're doing and understand the time, the technique, the talent, the lack of talent, if it's some of my work, if I'm being honest, but that can critically say, oh, that looks nice, or oh, I can't believe that you were able to accomplish that, or whatever it is. So I like to share my stuff. I certainly want you guys to share your stuff with me. You can do that on my Instagram. You can do that by dropping a comment in the video chat. And yeah, so I'm planning on finishing that spin. And then next week, I will announce on my Instagram what I'm going to do next week. I like doing the demos for a couple reasons. Number one, because like I mentioned before, I just like talking fiber arts and sharing fiber arts. And I certainly don't pretend to be like this crazy, amazing expert. It's just when I discover something new, I want to share it with other people. So that's one reason. But then also I want to share things that maybe you can do with stuff that you have at home if you're trying to find a way to fill time during quarantine or teach your kids a new hobby, craft, whatever during quarantine that can fill an afternoon. So we did the 7-string braid this week. Next week, I'm either going to do soap felting or felting with soap. I keep calling it soap felting, and that sounds weird. It's felting with soap. So I'm either going to do that or I'm going to do backstrap weaving. I haven't decided which one yet. So I will do an announcement tomorrow on my Instagram and let you guys know which one we're going to do. And then, of course, it'll be the same as this week. So if you only come on Thursdays, then don't worry. You're going to get the same demonstration that they got on Monday. And I will do it from not necessarily beginning to end. Like this one's not going to be finished by the end of this meeting because we only have about 10 minutes left. But I will demo each step in the process that I can. So that is the plan for next week. If you have thoughts or ideas about what you would like to see done in future weeks, there's lots of fun projects that we can do from home that can add a new skill to your fiber skill set. So I'm always excited to learn them and share them. But that's what I'll be working on next week. And I'm hoping that you guys will all be there to learn with me. The soap felting, the felting with soap. See, I did it again. The felting with soap, I've done 10, 12 times now. And it's really fun, really easy, and I like the result. It results in a very pretty little bar of soap that you can either give as a gift or put in a guest bathroom or use yourself, of course. And so it's another one of those things that's fun and function, because if you make a couple of those now, then when Secretary's Day, Teacher's Day, Labor Day, I don't know, when anytime a holiday or anything like that comes up and you need a quick gift to throw together, you get these little soaps, and you could throw in a fancy hand soap or something like that, and you just end up with a nice little kit that you can draw off of. And see, I almost started going backwards. Okay, so remember, I'm going clockwise. I need to keep going clockwise. I can't start going counterclockwise or I will unbraid what I'm doing, which I have actually done before, and it took me a little while to catch on to my mistake. I was like, why does this keep feeling looser? I don't understand. Like the part between my fingers down here. Yeah. So just make sure you keep going the direction that you started in. It's just like with spinning. With spinning, if you want to spin clockwise, you spin your singles clockwise, that's fine. If you want to spin them counterclockwise, that's fine too. But at the end of the day, when you apply it, you have to spin the opposite direction that you spun in originally, or you are going to end up with unwound yarn or a giant knot, which I've also done that too. That was real fun. Okay, so just to give you again, just another check-in here. I've got probably almost 6 inches, almost 5 inches done. And again, that's with not really paying attention to what I'm doing beyond making sure that I'm following the pattern, but it's not focusing on it right up here. It's just talking while I'm doing it. I watch TV and make these. And what I've started doing is I make a lot when I get bored of whatever project I'm working on, I'll take a break by making one. And then I just set aside the braids that I have, and I'm going to use them for hanging future weavings, or I might use them for my vendor show setup if we ever get to have vendor shows again. And, you know, I make extras and just hold on to them. And they're all different lengths and different colors. I like doing 7 different colors versus doing 3 of one, 3 of another, 1 of one, you know, any other setup like that, just because I like the end result better. But certainly that's not a requirement. That's just personal preference. And generally, if I can put more than one color in something, I'm going to put more than one color in something. I'll be honest with you. I see no reason to have one color when you can have 6, or in this case, 7. It just makes the whole world brighter, if you ask me. Oh, I'm getting the silk. So if you've never worked with silk before, the one problem that you run into is the fiber is very strong, but is very sticky. And it's sticky, particularly when it's still in this form, for 2 reasons. One, the fiber just is that way, but also the way that a silkworm creates their cocoon is using spit to stick everything together. And so it works like glue. And so if they get a little damp, they get extra gummy. And these ones aren't gummy. Those fibers will just grab on. But if you have a dry spot on your hand, or have them touch something that's coarse, or like the edge of my cardboard here, it's not a smooth edge, those fibers will just grab on and just start kind of pulling out. Which, another side note, I said at the beginning, this is all one piece of silk. They're not super thick. So yeah, you can kind of see that. So it's not super thick, but it's very tough, and they are opaque. You can't really see through them, even if you hold them up to the light. And so it's all one string. And what they do when they process, if they're processing for silk versus for like the hankies or something like that, is they will go through and they will find an end. And I watched a video of this and it looks so tedious. And then they just start slowly unraveling it, and slowly. And they have a big wheel that's basically just the drive wheel of a spinning wheel. And they're slowly turning it. And then they pull a little bit more off and they slowly turn. Oh, I saw that and I was like, no, nope. That's too much work for me. I would rather get my silk in hanky form or in sari silk form or anything else. But sitting there and trying to process from cocoons, no. So I have a huge bag of cocoons here that are going to all turn into some type of, I don't know, Halloween decoration or something, because I am not processing that. It's just too much for me. So anyway, all right. I think we are going to end a few minutes early today. Again, just to check in, I got about 5 inches done of my braid, and that's not including the tail, of course. So I got about 5 inches done. I'm super happy with the way the color comes out. Once I finish it, I will post it on my Instagram, so keep an eye out for that. I will post the finished product of this one and the one that I did on Monday. They were both the same color scheme, so they'll look very similar, but I'll post those. And tomorrow you can check my Instagram if you want to see what we will be doing next week. It's that's Pickles. I think he just woke himself up from a nightmare. I don't know what he was barking at. Oh well. So I will post tomorrow what I'm going to be doing in our meetings next week as a demonstration, as soon as I make the final decision, which they're both fun projects. I just have to decide which one sounds more fun to do next week. So that'll come up. I will have close-up pictures of the rainbow yarn as well on my Instagram tomorrow or Saturday. So you can keep, if you want to get like a better picture. I know holding it up to the camera isn't always the most efficient way. So I'll get some good pictures up on Instagram. So anyway, all right. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you had fun today. I hope you try out 7 braid weaving. It's fun and easy to do. And Stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.